July 23rd, 1966, Wembley Stadium, London. 93,000 people are about to watch a World Cup quarterfinal turn into something else entirely. A diplomatic incident, an international insult, and the single most argued about 10 minutes in the history of Argentine football. Before the final whistle even blows, one country will call it a robbery. The other will call it discipline. 60 years later, they still don't agree. Once you see exactly what happened, you might not either. This is the match Argentina calls El Robo del Siglo, the robbery of the century. Not a war, not a stolen goal. Just 90 minutes, one red-carpeted tunnel, and a single word that outlived everyone who said it. England is hosting the 1966 World Cup. They will go on to win it, at home, in front of their own fans, the only title England has ever claimed. But before any of that, in the quarterfinal, they draw Argentina. And Argentina, at that moment, are one of the most talented and most physical teams left in the tournament. Their captain is a 24-year-old defensive midfielder named Antonio Rattín. Tall, combative, and, according to almost everyone who played against him, absolutely relentless in an argument. The first half is goalless, tense, tight, full of niggling fouls that never quite get punished the way either side wants. Argentina feel England's tackles are going unpunished. England feel Argentina are wasting time, surrounding the referee, complaining after every whistle. Neither team trusts the man in the middle, and the man in the middle has a problem neither side saw coming. His name is Rudolf Kreitlein. He is West German. He speaks German. Rattín speaks Spanish. Between them, there is no shared language at all, which means every disagreement on the pitch has to be settled through gestures, tone, and guesswork. In the 35th minute, that guesswork runs out. Kreitlein books an Argentine player for a foul. Rattín, as captain, walks over to argue the decision, the same way captains had been arguing decisions with this referee all match. Kreitlein has had enough. He doesn't book Rattín for the tackle. He sends him off for what gets translated afterward, loosely, as violence of the tongue, for the tone of the argument itself, not for anything Rattín actually did to another player. Rattín doesn't understand a word of the explanation. He turns to teammates. He turns to the referee again. Nobody can tell him, in a language he speaks, exactly what he's being punished for. So, he doesn't leave. For the next several minutes, 93,000 people watch a World Cup quarterfinal simply stop. Rattín stands near the halfway line, arms folded, refusing to walk to the tunnel. Teammates surround the referee. The English players wait. Kreitlein points to the tunnel again. Rattín doesn't move. Somewhere in the middle of this, Rattín ends up seated on the turf, close to the red carpet laid out along the touchline for the day's VIP guests, not sitting on the carpet itself in most accounts, but close enough that the image sticks. The captain of Argentina, refusing to leave a World Cup pitch, parked a few feet from the carpet reserved for royalty. It takes close to 10 minutes before Rattín finally walks off, flanked, in some accounts, by police escort. Still visibly furious, still convinced he has no idea what he actually did wrong. Here's the part that matters more than the 10 minutes themselves. Once he's gone, Argentina still don't fold. Down to 10 men, they hold out for almost the entire rest of the match. It isn't until the 78th minute that England finally break through. A header from Geoff Hurst, the same player who will score a hat trick in the final 2 weeks later. One goal. England win 1-0. Argentina go home eliminated by a single goal, a man down for nearly an hour, against the team that will lift the trophy. If the story stopped there, it would just be a hard luck quarterfinal exit. It doesn't stop there. After the final whistle, England's manager, Alf Ramsey, refuses to let his players swap shirts with the Argentines. the small traditional gesture of respect between opponents. And in his press comments afterward, Ramsey doesn't hold back. He tells reporters that England's best football is still to come, and that it will be seen against the right type of opposition, a team who come out to play football and not act as animals. Animals. One word, said by the manager of the tournament's host nation about the national team of Argentina on record to the press, hours after a controversial sending off that Argentina still didn't understand. Think about what that word does. A red card is a decision. Decisions get appealed, argued, forgotten by the next World Cup. A word like that isn't a decision. It's an accusation about character. Not about one player's temper, but about an entire country's relationship to civility itself. And it landed on a team that had just watched their own captain get sent off by a referee who couldn't even explain, in a shared language, what he'd done. In Argentina, the newspapers don't call it a loss. They call it El Robo del Siglo, the robbery of the century. Not because they think Rattin's sending off was necessarily correct or incorrect on its own, because the whole framing, the confusion, the language barrier, the insult afterward reads from Buenos Aires as a country that was never going to be treated as an equal on English soil, no matter what the scoreline said. Football historian David Goldblatt has written about exactly this kind of moment, how a single insult, delivered at the right time, can outlast every statistic from the match it came from. A scoreline fades. Everyone forgets who scored in the 63rd minute of a quarterfinal from 6 decades ago. But a word like animals, aimed at an entire nation by the host country's own manager, doesn't fade the same way. It gets repeated at dinner tables. It gets taught to children who weren't born yet. It waits for the next time these two teams meet. And in 1966, nobody in that stadium had any idea how long that wait would actually be, or what it would eventually attach itself to. Because 16 years later, in 1982, Argentina and Britain would fight an actual war over a set of islands in the South Atlantic. And 4 years after that war ended, Argentina and England would meet again at a World Cup for the first time since Wembley. And Diego Maradona would settle the score with his fist, then with his feet, in the space of 4 minutes. None of that is this video. That's a different story for a different day. But it's worth saying once, clearly. None of it starts with the war. It starts here, in 1966, with a language barrier, a red carpet, and one word that an entire country decided to never forget. Here's what's easy to miss if you only watch this match through England's eyes. From Wembley, this looks like a simple story. A team lost their discipline. Their captain wouldn't accept a fair decision, and the officials responded by holding the line. From Buenos Aires, it looks like something else entirely. A referee who couldn't communicate, a punishment nobody could explain, and a host nation's own manager confirming out loud what Argentina already suspected, that they were never really welcome at this tournament as equals in the first place. Both of those stories can't fully be true at the same time, and that's exactly the point. Rivalries this deep are rarely built on one side being simply right and the other simply wrong. They're built on two countries walking away from the same 90 minutes, having witnessed what feels like two completely different matches, and neither one ever fully believing the other's version again. Antonio Rattín went home from that World Cup as the villain of the tournament, according to the English press. In Argentina, he came home a symbol, the captain who refused to be pushed off a pitch without an explanation he could understand, even if it cost his team the match. Both of those images are still true today. Neither country has really let go of theirs. So, which version do you believe? Was Rattín a villain or a symbol? Tell me in the comments. And that's the part worth sitting with. This Wednesday, when Argentina and England meet again at the World Cup, watch the pre-match handshakes closely. Watch what happens in the stands before a single pass is even made. None of that tension traces back to a war, or to a stolen goal, or to a hand that touched a ball it shouldn't have. All of that came later. The very first brick in this rivalry was laid right here in 1966 by a red card nobody could translate, and a single word that was never going to be forgotten. This is what this channel does. It takes something as small as a red card, a mistranslated argument, a single word said to a reporter, and shows you the history and the psychology hiding underneath it. If that's the kind of story you want more of, follow the channel so you don't miss the next one. And if this one held your attention, leave a like. It genuinely helps this reach more people.